There is a kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. It is not your body. It is the part of you that has been performing for so long you cannot remember what you actually believe anymore. You pray, but you are aware of yourself praying. You give, but some part of you is watching yourself give. You show up, week after week, and underneath all of it, there is this quiet, suffocating voice that says, "It is still not enough. You are still not enough." What if Jesus diagnosed that exact condition 2,000 years ago? Not in a counseling session, in a sermon. And what if he buried the diagnosis so deep inside the architecture of that sermon that most people have read it 100 times and walked straight past it? His name is Caleb, and we will come back to him. Before you can understand what Jesus is doing in this sermon, you need to understand what it felt like to be alive on that hill the morning he preached it. This is not a retreat. This is not a Sunday morning service with cushioned seats and a welcome team at the door. The people climbing that hill in Galilee are occupied people. Rome has been sitting on top of their country for nearly a century. The roads they walk are Roman roads. The coins in their pockets have Caesar's face on them. The tax collector who showed up at their door last harvest season was not a bureaucrat. He was an instrument of imperial extraction, and whatever he decided to take, he took, and there was no appeals process. But it is not Rome that is crushing them this morning. It is the religious system. By the 1st century, the Pharisaic tradition had taken the 613 commandments of the Torah and surrounded them with a second layer of oral law. It was designed to build a fence around the written law so that no one would accidentally break it, and then a fence around that fence. The oral tradition eventually codified into what became the Mishnah. It specified exactly how far you could walk on the Sabbath before it became work, exactly how you had to wash your hands before eating, exactly which knots you were and were not permitted to tie. The intention was protection. The effect was suffocation. Ordinary people, the farmers and the fishermen and the day laborers standing on this hill, woke up every morning already behind, already unclean, already not quite enough to approach a God who seemed to require an expert just to understand the access requirements. That is who is sitting on this hill. And then Matthew 5, verse 1. Seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. He sits down. In 1st century rabbinical culture, a teacher who sits is a teacher who is about to deliver something authoritative, not a suggestion, not a discussion starter, a ruling, but the location is what detonates everything. A mountain, a Jewish crowd, a new teacher ascending and sitting down to speak. Every single person on that hill knows the only other time this happened. Sinai, Moses, the law of God descending from the mountain. Jesus is not being poetic. He is making a claim that would have stopped the breath of every person present. A new Moses has climbed a new mountain, and before he says a single word, he has already told them everything about what kind of God is about to speak. Hold one word. Matthew 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That word, blessed. The Greek is makarioi. Do not let it go. We are coming back to it. Here is the problem most people have with the Sermon on the Mount. They read it like a list. Blessed are the meek. Turn the other cheek. Do not worry about tomorrow. Love your enemies. Give to the poor. And every single teaching is true. But when you flatten 3 chapters into a list, the sermon starts to feel like a very long, very demanding collection of things you are supposed to be doing better. And that feeling, that low hum of vague guilt and vague inspiration and the creeping certainty that you are never actually going to arrive, that is not a reading problem. That is a structural problem, because you are reading something the wrong way. Jesus did not write a list, he built something. Ancient Hebrew and Greek writers had a way of organizing their most important ideas that we have almost entirely lost. They did not use introductions and conclusions. They used symmetry. They would open a text with a theme and then mirror it at the end. Open with a second theme, mirror it second from the end, and keep folding inward, layer by layer, like a letter being folded in half until they reached the crease, the center. In this literary form, which scholars call a chiasm, the center is never an accident. The center is the point. Everything else in the text is an arrow pointing toward it. Matthew 5 through 7 is a chiasm. Watch what happens when you stop reading it as a flat list and start reading it as a structure that folds. The sermon opens with the Beatitudes in Matthew 5, 3 through 12. Who belongs to the kingdom? What these people look like from the inside. And it closes with the two builders in Matthew 7:24 through 27. The same people, now tested. What they look like when the storm comes and the floodwater rises against the foundation they chose. Same theme, two ends of the same mirror. Move one layer in. Matthew 5:13 through 20. Salt and light, and Jesus fulfilling the law rather than abolishing it. Move to the other side. Matthew 7:13 through 23. The narrow gate, and the devastating warning about people who called Jesus Lord, who prophesied in his name, who did works in his name, and heard the words, "I never knew you." Two sides of the same question. What does it actually mean to be inside the kingdom rather than performing citizenship from the outside? Same mirror. Move one more layer in. Matthew 5:21 through 48, the antitheses. 6 times, Jesus picks up a commandment and says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." Not abolishing the commandments, cutting underneath them, moving the address from the behavior to the heart. And on the other side, Matthew 6:19 through 7:12, money and anxiety and judgment. The same diagnosis from a different angle. Where is your trust actually placed? What does your life actually orbit? Same mirror. And then you reach the center, the crease of the letter, the point that everything else in the sermon has been folding toward. Matthew 6:1 through 18. Not the Beatitudes, not the Lord's Prayer, not love your enemies. Giving in secret, prayer in secret, fasting in secret. And Jesus does not say it once. He does not make the point and move on. He says the same thing 3 times, 3 separate sections, 3 separate disciplines. And into each one, he drives the same phrase like a nail he refuses to leave half in. Matthew 6:4, the section on giving, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Matthew 6:6, the section on prayer, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Matthew 6:18, the section on fasting, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. 3 times. In ancient literature, when a writer repeats something 3 times, he is not being redundant. He is being deliberate. The repetition is the argument. The first time, you hear it. The second time, you realize he means it. The third time, you understand that this is the whole point, that everything surrounding this phrase, every mirror, every antithesis, every warning about who actually gets into the kingdom has been building toward one theological truth so clean and so devastating that Jesus will not move on until it has gone all the way in. There is an audience that sees everything you do in the dark. Not the performance, not the version of yourself you have been building for other people. the version no one else gets to see, the 2 a.m. version, the doubt version, the quiet, honest, unphotographed version. That audience sees all of it, and that is the only audience that was ever supposed to matter. Stop and feel the weight of that. Now, bring back the word we planted. Makarioi, Matthew 5, verse 3. Every English translation renders it blessed, and every English reader hears something like fortunate, or spiritually happy, or in a good place with God. But that is not the word. In the ancient Greek world, makarioi was the word used exclusively for the gods, for those who exist in a state of complete flourishing, unassailable wholeness that external circumstances have no power to touch. The poor do not have it. The suffering do not have it. The occupied people on this hill do not have it. That is precisely why the word detonates when Jesus points it at them. He is not describing how they will feel when they get their life together. He is pronouncing a verdict over them right now, as they are, in their poverty of spirit, in their mourning, in their meekness, in their hunger. Before they have done a single thing, the sermon is about to ask of them. The kingdom belongs to these people already. That is not encouragement. That is the complete demolition of the system they have been living under. The entire Pharisaic project, the fences around the fences, the lifetime of trying to be clean enough to approach God, collapses in one word, makarioi. And the reason it collapses is because Jesus is targeting a completely different disease. He names it in the exact center of the chiasm. Hypocrites. Matthew 6:2, 6:5, 6:16. We translated hypocrite and we hear liar or fraud. But hypocrites is a Greek theater term. It means a stage actor, someone whose profession is to wear a mask and perform a role for a paying audience. When Jesus calls the person who gives publicly, prays publicly, and fasts publicly a hypocrites, he is not saying they are fundamentally evil. He is saying they are performing in the wrong theater. So, they have given their greatest spiritual acts to an audience that cannot do anything lasting with them, and he says they already have their reward, the applause, the recognition, the reputation. That is what they played for. That is what they received. The Father who sees in secret got nothing. That is not judgment. That is tragedy. And that is Caleb. Caleb is a performer. He does not want to be. He is not strategic about it, and he is not calculating the social return on every act of service. He genuinely loves God. He genuinely wants to be faithful. But somewhere in 15 years of doing the right things, the audience shifted, so slowly he never noticed it happening. The small group became a role he plays on Thursday nights. The tithe became a line item he feels slightly proud of when he reviews his budget. The scripture post is for him, yes, but it is also for whoever is watching. And the prayers. He prays. But he is conscious of himself praying in a way that makes even prayer feel like a performance. And the thing that is quietly destroying him is not guilt, it is emptiness. He has been pouring his whole spiritual life into a performance that the only truly sustaining audience was never receiving. Every act of worship that went to the auditorium instead of the secret place was an act of worship that came back empty. And you can only run on empty for so long before the exhaustion stops feeling like a season and starts feeling like the whole truth about what faith is. The center of the chiasm is the diagnosis. Matthew 6:1-18 is not a section on spiritual disciplines. It is a description of the only kind of life that actually holds. A life aimed at an audience of one, not because performance is evil. Because performance to the wrong audience is starvation dressed up as faithfulness. And the terrifying, liberating truth Jesus buries at the center of the greatest sermon ever preached is this: the Father who sees in secret has been watching the version of Caleb that no one else gets to see, the version that shows up at 2 a.m., the version that has questions he would never say out loud in small group, the version that is so tired he cannot even perform the tiredness anymore. That version. The Father has been in that room the whole time, and he has not looked away. That is not a coffee mug verse. That is a restructuring of everything. Now here is the question the entire sermon has been building toward. Has anyone ever actually done it? Has any human being in history ever lived exclusively at the center of this chiasm? Has anyone ever given, prayed, fasted, served, and suffered entirely for an audience of one, with no awareness of the crowd, no performance for the room, no part of them playing to any gallery? One person. Think about the garden. Matthew 26:39, and going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." This is the most important prayer ever prayed in human history, and not a single person heard it in real time. The disciples who were supposed to be keeping watch were asleep. There was no crowd, no record being made, no audience at all. There was just a man, face down in the dirt, in the dark, praying to a Father who sees in secret. Every word of Gethsemane was spoken into silence, and the Father heard every syllable of it. And the cross. The crucifixion was the most public event of Jesus' entire life and simultaneously the most invisible. Rome saw an execution. The religious establishment saw a problem being solved. The crowds saw a spectacle. The disciples saw the end of everything. Not one person standing at the foot of that cross saw what the Father saw. The singular act of perfect obedience in all of human history, offered to an audience of one, in front of a world that completely misread it. The Father who sees in secret rewarded him on the third day. Now go back to the beginning. Makarioi. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Read that list one more time and tell me who you are actually reading about. Jesus is not handing you a self-improvement checklist. He is showing you himself. He is the only human being who has ever fully inhabited every beatitude. The poor in spirit, the mourning, the meek, the persecuted. He lived there, completely. And the declaration of Makarioi, that royal verdict of unassailable flourishing, that is what the resurrection confirmed over him. And for everyone who belongs to him, that same verdict is already spoken. Not because of what they have performed, because of whose they are. The sermon does not end with two builders. It ends at an empty tomb. And the question it leaves in the room is not, are you doing enough? The question is, who are you in the room for? Caleb is still tired. He does not wake up the morning after this and feel fixed. The habits of 15 years do not dissolve overnight. He still catches himself sometimes, mid-prayer, aware of himself. He still reaches for the phone after he gives. The performance instinct is old, and it is deep, and it does not leave quietly. But something has shifted underneath it. Not the behavior yet, the direction. He has started to understand what room he was supposed to be in. And the Father who has been in that room with him the whole time, watching the version of Caleb that no performance could ever reach, has not moved, has not looked away, has not required the mask before offering the presence. That is the sermon, not a list, a door. And the promise folded into the center, repeated 3 times so you cannot miss it, is this: the Father sees, The Father sees what no crowd will ever see, and the Father rewards what no audience will ever applaud. If this shift in perspective landed differently than the sermons you grew up with, share this with one person, not to boost an algorithm, but because there is someone else out there who is quietly exhausted, trying to climb a mountain they were never meant to conquer alone. To the channel subscribers who helped the deep dives into the Greek lexicons, the Second Temple history, and the architectural study that makes these scripts possible, thank you. If you want to support this kind of research, please subscribe. The link is below. Step out of the auditorium. The Father is waiting in the secret place.